So on this commercial maintenance in business package, there are a absolute ton of businesses out there that need a maintenance person. And I know a couple of these places myself. One of the places, got into this new facility. It's a big facility. They start having these things go wrong, and then they start hiring contractors to fix the stuff that goes wrong, these one-off jobs. And they figure out that for the amount they're paying all these contractors over an extended period of time, that they could hire somebody, a maintenance person, to do this themselves. So they hire a maintenance person, and if you're going to get a real maintenance professional, you're looking at $20 to $25 an hour minimum.
Oh, yeah.
If you're looking for a professional that knows what they're doing and has knowledge. So you're looking at $20 to $25 an hour minimum. And then they bring this person in. So it's a cost savings from what they were doing, right? But they bring this maintenance person in, and this maintenance person in this really big facility has a lot of downtime because they go around and they fix this leak as it happens, or they replace the toilet seal, or they fix the paper towel dispenser in the bathroom. And now that's done. So then you just sit around and you wait for the next thing to break. And it's not an efficient system. So what is the balance between paying expensive specialty contractors for every problem that breaks and having a full-time employee? Nobody's going to work part-time to do this. So you, the owner of the commercial maintenance business package, you step in and you've got subscription options on your website. So for the price, depending on the size of the facility and how invasive their needs are, you can direct them to one of your packages. For the price of a part-time employee, this company can balance not paying exorbitant prices to somebody from the yellow pages every single time something breaks inside their building. And they can balance not having a full-time person that sits around for 3/4 or half of the day. They've got somebody that's going to address their needs. They're going to be responsive. They're not an employee, so they save taxes and workers' compensation and all sorts of other things just by nature of the business relationship you have with them. So there's huge cost savings for these companies in this package. So you're offering them something that they can't get otherwise, and you're creating stable income for yourself, because you get 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of these companies to subscribe to your service. You're booked. Now you got to start hiring people, unless, maybe that's your dream. Maybe your dream is, you want 10 or 15,000 bucks a month and you can handle all the workload yourself. That's good income for an entrepreneur. Or maybe you want to start this off and then bring somebody in to help you and then put the accounts over to them and then keep scaling the business and growing it yourself. And you've got maintenance contracts all over your state. Just the possibilities of what you can do with this need is absolutely endless.
Oh, it's definitely true. I know I was personally a general manager of a retail space that was, about 25,000, 30,000 square feet. And I know that, maintenance was a major challenge for us. And we went through all of the back and forth that you just, described. Do we bring somebody on, which eats up payroll for other services that we want to provide and, other functions we want to, complete? Or do we hire out independent contractors when needed, pay really, really high markups? And, the thing that always killed me is every outside, single offering contractor we brought in had to be fully briefed on the facility because, so many things are interconnected. And so there's a lot of time spent just getting them up to speed on what the issue is and how to correct it.
And that's a whole expense I didn't even cover that expense. Time to these business owners of like, okay, well, this is the system over here and here's the maintenance room and that's a huge expense by itself.
Oh, yeah. And and it was something that regularly came up. There's a lot of wear and tear in large commercial spaces. And actually, it was probably something that, at the time took up about 10% of my job, which, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it was actually an enormous detraction from what I could have otherwise
sales.
Been.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so having a service like this would have been invaluable, and probably ultimately less expensive because I
Oh,
wouldn't
for
have had,
sure.
so much lost time. I wouldn't have paid, so much in ridiculous overhead for one-off jobs. And the other thing that I really like about this is for the person doing it, I mean, you would gain that familiarity. You'd be an expert. You'd be in, you'd be out. For you, the amount of time that it takes would be so much less than for everybody else. And so that in turn is going to translate to very high profitability for you and maybe for down the road your employee that you kind of transition to scaling this up with.
Yeah, well, it's just the possibilities of what you could do with this are sky high. Because, like you said, there's huge wear and tear on these facilities, and the facility that I'm specifically that I guess is my number one example that I talked about at the beginning. It's a 80,000 square foot facility. There's 100 employees that are inside this facility. They have hundreds of customers every day that come through. So this place is big. And when you think about, if you stop somebody walking on the sidewalk of this company and you said, do you think that this company over here could afford and justify a full-time maintenance person? I bet 90% of the people that you would poll would say, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But, knowing the inside operations of how this company operates, and knowing the backstory, the fact of the matter is that it just does not make much business sense to have a full-time person that sits around all day. So then, this particular company was like, okay, well, we'll have them be half-time maintenance and we'll have them be half-time this other position within the company. A maintenance person doesn't want to go do inventory stuff. That's not up their alley. That's not what they're interested in. It's not what they enjoy. It's not what they signed up for when they said, I'm going to go into maintenance. I'm going to go into servicing equipment and systems. So
Yeah.
they had a hard time keeping somebody at that point. Forget the fact that they had 50% downtime. You start throwing in counting product and you're going, no thanks. Now all of a sudden you got a really hard position to fill. So yeah, that was the idea that this package was designed with, was that there is just, everywhere you go, there's a commercial building. Most of the people are tenants. Most of the time, the stuff inside the building and the systems that operate that building are going to be the tenant's responsibility per the lease to maintain. So, and those of us that aren't tenants own the building. Obviously, it's their responsibility to maintain this stuff. And if you don't maintain it, like you said, the consequences are huge.
Oh, definitely. And I think the other thing to, be aware of from, a facility management perspective is, having your employees do this is risky. There's liability. If they're climbing up a tall ladder and they fall, I know working with a corporate risk management team, I was constantly being advised to not assign people to, service related tasks within the building, which meant that it was always a contracted out job and something that ultimately ate my bottom line and reduced our profitability.
Now, you've worked under our business methodology. Tell me how our way of doing things has impacted your life.
Well, it's improved my life in many different ways. I've learned to, operate in business more efficiently, more strategically, with a greater focus on win-win outcomes, where the business is profiting, but the, clients and customers are happy. So it's been a very enriching process, and I've learned a lot from you guys. You guys have that entrepreneurial spirit that just makes for good business, and so it's been just an absolute pleasure working with you guys.
And now, what about financially? How would you say your situation is different?
Well, it's been enormously personally rewarding, financially rewarding. We've been able to do things we never imagined being able to do just a few years before. Your unique approach to business has enabled us to, be more profitable than our competitors. We've had a better work-life balance, I think, than most people who, even get close to approaching our income threshold. So I think really, as rewarding as something could be, it has been for us.
Now, do you feel like our way of doing things has profitability advantages over traditional ways of doing business?
Oh, most most certainly. Yeah. I think you can, tell just by our history of growth. I mean, I think, are willing to adapt our business strategies, fill any niche role that's out there, and just, capitalize on things that other businesses aren't even aware of. So, yeah, I think we, have had a much greater level of success than our competitors with more profitability and oftentimes less busy work.
Yeah, certainly. And I think too, with the startup series goes over all sorts of that kind of stuff. And just the ways that we've been luckily forced to adapt and learn how to do things with less staff and, more technology based or more efficiency based, just really picking things apart down to the typing of emails or not. Stuff like that makes a huge difference, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Breaking things down to their kind of constituent components, seeing what you absolutely have to have, what's not necessary, and then putting your energy behind what drives, maximum productivity and profitability. And I think that's been where we've had a lot of our success.
Now, Justin, what would you say to someone who is thinking about buying one of these business packages, but is maybe nervous about starting a business from scratch instead of going with a more expensive traditional franchise, or maybe nervous about something else with starting a business?
Well, I would say that, now is a very good time, I think, for someone to look at starting their own business. And I think, when you're weighing these options, say in comparison to a more expensive franchise, I think the flexibility that's afforded because you still own and have control of your own business, I think
Absolutely.
that's huge. I think that's why a lot of people start a business. They don't want to have to report to someone and curtail their goal and operations based on the direction of somebody else. So I think you get all of those benefits. But I think the other thing that's, a major advantage is that it is lower cost. You're not paying a percentage of your income for an indefinite period. You just have the ability to take a proven model, to adapt it to your specific situation, to be given all the tools to implement your strategy and your goals and to achieve it. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I mean, as an entrepreneur myself, obviously, that started several businesses, when I look back over what worked really well and what did not work really well, it's the unknowns that are waiting out there to just, grab you by the foot and trip you up. And that's really what I think makes businesses fail. I think there's probably two major things that make businesses fail. Number one is not knowing a system and process that's proven for success, which it takes a while to get there. And then number two is just these pitfalls that every single entrepreneur will face at some point in time or another. And having the startup series as a guide to continually reference back to me, makes all the difference in the world compared to somebody that does not have that resource. And business consultants are really, really, really expensive. It's a good way to, especially when you're in the startup phases, that's a good way to really drain profitability, is having to call somebody and pay them by the hour every time you have a question, rather than just referencing a resource that you've got on your computer.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you're getting basically a veteran business model that works.
Yeah.
And you're able to use that from the get-go. So, I mean, it's like, taking the Microsoft model when you're starting a software company. It's as good a start as you could have.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you joining me here and going over these business packages. And, for you guys there thinking about this, you can submit on our website or you can give us a call at 844-500-6620 and speak with a business launching consultant. Again, that's 844-500-6620. Thanks so much.